Business briefings, and Palesa Chubisi is in Durban in the KwaZulu Natl Province for this briefing. Under the spotlight this morning is Mike Mabuyakhulu, the MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs. And the focus of the discussion is driving economic growth through tourism despite adverse global economic conditions, the story of KZN. All right, apparently also on the panel, we've got Phindile Makwakwa, the COO for Tourism in KZN, and Marcel from Aulcock, who's the Executive Director at Tsogo Sun. Palesa, over to you.
Thank you very much, Leon, and a very good morning to our viewers at home. But I think it is only right, since while we are in the KwaZulu Natal, for me to say, Sanbonani abantu base KZN, it's good to be in your company this morning. You rightfully said so, Leon. We are in Durban this morning. We're talking more economic development, and as you mentioned, it's basically looking at developing the growth of the economy in this province through the use of tourism, despite the current global economic situation that we find our country and the world in this morning. Right, let me just take this opportunity to quickly introduce to you our panelists. This morning we have the MEC of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs in KwaZulu Natal, MEC Mike Mabuyakhulu. MEC, a very good morning to you and welcome to Morning Live.
Morning to you and morning to the viewers.
Thank you very much indeed. On the other hand, we have the COO for Tourism in this province, Phindile Makwakwa. Ma'am, good morning to you.
Good morning, Palesa and the viewers.
Thank you very much to you as well. The CEO of Tsogo Sun will also be talking hospitality. It's doing quite great in terms of contribution towards the economic development of this province. And the CEO of Tsogo Sun is Marcel from Aulcock. Sir, good morning to you as well.
Morning.
Thank you very much indeed. There you have it. Remember that at home, you do have an opportunity to contribute towards our show. We're using hashtag TNA BizBrev. Let me repeat it again. It's hashtag TNA BizBrev, and as the show continues, we will be taking our tweets. And of course, we'll also be taking questions from the members of the community who are present here this morning. They'll have an opportunity to interact with the MEC for tourism in the province, the CEO of tourism as well as the CEO for Tsogo Sun. Now, the MEC, it's always right to start with you, according to protocol, I believe. Now, just please kindly take us through what is the current economic status of the province. I know that KwaZulu Natal is doing quite great. You second contributing a province towards the gross domestic product of the country.
Well, thank you very much, Palesa. KwaZulu Natal, as you correctly say, is the second biggest economy of South Africa in terms of the provinces. We contribute in excess just of about 16.5% to the gross domestic output of the country. And in terms of the manufacturing base of the country, we're the second biggest manufacturing base of South Africa. In all indicators that you would like to look at, KZN is up there. When it comes to tourism, though, we are saying that when it comes to domestic tourism, we are doing exceptionally well. We're quite happy where we are in terms of the domestic trips that we're making as a country and the contribution to the country. But in terms of international arrivals, because of the historical facts, we've been lagging behind Gauteng and the Western Cape. But I must tell you, we're catching very fast. And indeed, we have begun to see changes. And we've been very happy what we saw, particularly during the last festive season, where we saw an increase in international arrivals. That in itself is actually telling us that we are indeed on the right track.
But you're saying that competition is a little bit tough between you, Gauteng, and the Western Cape.
Look, our approach is this, is that first and foremost as a destination, South Africa as a destination, is a long-haul destination. What I think all of us as Team South Africa, Team Tourism in South Africa, meaning all of the provinces together with the National Minister, Hanekom, we need to work first and foremost to attract tourists to come to South Africa. That is the first important responsibility that all of us have together. But secondly, once we have that, we need to then ensure that each and every one of us have got our share. And I'm saying I want to see an increase in the proportion of the share that come to KZN when we deal with international arrivals. And indeed, we have taken very firm and deliberate plans and actions to precisely try and achieve that objective. We are seeing now us serving airlines and developing routes to various destinations in Africa and elsewhere in the world. Last year, we introduced Qatar Airways that came here, is flying to Durban. We introduced the Turkish Airways that is now flying to Durban. Ethiopian Airlines is now flying direct to Durban. And we are working aggressively in improving our route development. So that in itself clearly indicates that we are still working first and foremost in ensuring that South Africa as a long-haul destination attracts tourists. And secondly, a share, which we think equitable share for that must come to KZN.
We are going to get or dwell more into the airlines issues and tourism on its own, but let's look at investment. What kind of investment opportunities are present in this province?
Well, I must say that we're one province that we work so well with the industry first and foremost. As government of the province of KwaZulu Natl, we're quite happy with the kind of relationship we've established with the tourism industry across here. In this province. For that reason, you are seeing huge investment opportunities where people are now investing in some of the new facilities, such as your hotels, such as your lodges. One of the things where we think we're still lacking behind is actually being able to invest a little bit more on the beach resorts. That is an area where we are still working very hard, but we're happy that even on that score, we now have got people who are now wanting to come into the space and to invest in the beach resorts.
And I know that your 9 beaches have been given the blue flag status. What does it mean?
Well, it means that if you go to all of the 9 beaches that you'll find in the more than 600-kilometer coastline of KZN, you can go there and take a bath without you being worried, because it means those beaches are well prepared, are well looked after, and they now have got the blue flag status. And there was a time when there was a debate in this province whether we would have these beaches assessed on the basis of any other measures or the blue flag. We then actually went and said they must be determined on the basis of the blue flag. So that policy now is in place. So I must say to people, wherever you are in South Africa, in the African continent, anywhere in the world, you can come here and enjoy your own beaches leisurely in the beautiful eastern seaboard of South Africa in KwaZulu Natl.
So we can come and ignore the pennies. We must just come in huge numbers.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? There can be absolutely, the figures show it. In December, we're up in terms of the domestic figures of people who came from elsewhere in the other provinces here. It was up by 6.4%. Now, it tells you that when people think of the domestic tourism market, which one is much more competitive? KwaZulu Natal is the tops that domestic tourism destination. So I'm actually urging South Africans that even now, during the Easter holidays, where would you want to spend the holiday? You can't go anywhere else but KZN.
Most definitely to the KZN. We are going to look into the master plan for tourism, developing tourism growth in the province in just a moment. But I just want to come to you, Usis Phindi. Now, leisure tourism, I see that it's doing quite great than your business tourism. Why is that so?
Palesa, I wouldn't really necessarily say leisure is doing better. I think it's how we're focusing the two. Firstly, as MEC has indicated, in terms of leisure, of course, domestically, we have the lion's share. We are just under 40% of the share, the national share of domestic tourism, and we are growing our numbers. We are becoming even more attractive in terms of our neighboring countries, SADC. We are looking very aggressively into going more for especially landlocked African states, because we want to say, as globally we're experiencing the economic downturn, let us look more within the continent and encourage fellow Africans to travel more into KZN. We are looking at Asia as well as a new tourist market area that we haven't quite looked at as aggressively. And so in terms of leisure, we are growing domestically and obviously have very aggressive programs for more international growth. In terms of business tourism, actually, we have the Durban KZN Convention Bureau, which alone in the past 3 years has attracted business events of over 2 billion rand. And so we are definitely growing our business tourism offering.
So the Bureau is actually doing a great job.
We are doing a great job. We are fast growing, working very closely with trade in terms of course, we have to go to various international events and bid for them to come to Durban. And so the work that we've done in this regard has seen massive growth. And of course, our mandate as Tourism KZN is also to make sure that tourism does spread geographically, because we market the whole of the province. And so Durban is our gateway to the destination. However, it is very important that the benefits are felt right throughout the province. And so through the Convention Bureau and through business tourism and, of course, leisure, we make sure that our offerings are felt right across.
I know South Africans have been urged to sort of tighten their seatbelts because of the current economic situation. We are going to get into that, but we quickly need to take a commercial break. Now, remember that at home you can participate in our discussion by using the hashtag TNA BizBrev. When we come back, we talk more on hospitality.
Get all the latest news from the SABC's online news services on our website. Breaking news and in-depth coverage of everything from business, sports to politics and lifestyle. Catch the top news clips and watch live streaming of major news events on the SABC News YouTube channel whenever. Stay connected on the SABC News Facebook page and have your say on news that matters to you. And for the latest headlines and live updates from our reporters, follow us on Twitter. SABC Digital News, anytime, anywhere.
Controlesa is actually stirring the pot here.
I'm sure they've been consulted as Controlesa. They did not see a snake. Now that in certain areas there are certain benefits that might possibly be accruing, there is a snake, now we need to reverse the process.
I agree, but it is not above the sovereignty of the people. The very same court you're talking about.
The sovereignty of the people, probably you should explain that to me.
The sovereignty of the people is above everything.
It is not proper the way facts are presented to the public. Are you in contact with KwaZulu Natl?
He was kicked out by the court because he wanted to be amicus curiae.
For your weekly dose of all things legal, join Dumile Mateza every Sunday at 2 p.m. only on SABC News Channel.
A romantic adventure film starring Ivan Buerta and Donnelly Roberts. The story begins in the beautiful vineyards of Paarl in the Western Cape. The adventure takes off when the characters find themselves on the tropical island of Love, Mauritius.
Josephine's work is more interesting and distinguishable. She visits war-stricken zone countries to tell the story of the damage war often leaves behind.
This particular exhibition's case, places that are named after conflict or disaster or war or reconciliation.
And basically what it is it's a collection of the best animated short films from around the world this year. And the idea is to inspire animators and directors with this exciting content. And so that's been offered to us as a cinema, and we're very excited to be screening the animated show of shows here in South Africa.
Join Refulwa Mulwa for that 1 hour weekly dose of arts and entertainment news every Friday at 9 p.m. on Trends.
Well, welcome back to Durban, here in the KwaZulu Natl Province. It's our TNA Breakfast show this morning. We're talking economic development. Remember that our guest this morning is the MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs in the KZN, MEC Mike Mabuyakhulu. We also have Phindile Makwakwa. She is the COO for Tourism in the province, and the CEO for Tsogo Sun is Marcel van Aulcock. You can participate on our discussion this morning by using the hashtag TNA BizBrev and like I said earlier on, as the show progresses, we will definitely be taking your tweets and conveying the messages and the questions that you might have to the member of our panel this morning. Now, just before the break, I was saying that as South Africans, we were urged to sort of tighten our seatbelts because of the current economic situation. In terms of the hospitality sector, Marcel, has it been affected?
It has been affected, but we're coming off a pretty low base. You know, the industry went through a very tough time after 2010. There was a combination of new supply that came in and a big contraction in demand as the recession hit. And it's been a slow, steady recovery since then, and it's coming back from that. So if you take the last year, it's actually a very good year compared to prior years, but the base is still low. Industry occupancies are probably between 5 and 10% off where they should be. So we're on the up, but not at the levels we should be at. We're seeing it in both leisure and business tourism. Although leisure has been performing particularly well, the province and the country had a very good season. I think a couple of factors helped that. The weak currency saw quite a lot of international visitors come through, notwithstanding visa and birth certificate issues that are still out there. And there's been quite a lot of renovation and development work going on in Durban and so on. So we've seen peak season, we're always full, but that peak has been spreading a little bit further. Stays have been a bit longer, spend's been a bit higher, we've achieved better rates.
So basically you're saying that the weaker rand is doing wonders? The
weaker rand definitely helps. I mean, we're an absolute bargain internationally. It's not where it should be because we have particularly the unabridged birth certificate issue is still out there. We should be not knowing where to put all the foreign tourists that are coming in, and that is an issue that still needs to be addressed. There's been some good moves on it, but it hasn't been solved yet. But overall, the industry from a local tourism point of view is actually doing quite well. Notwithstanding all the negative economic news, we're seeing good travel numbers and good rates, which is great news for us. And you see across a number, it's not just Tsogo, other hotel participants have had the same thing.
So you're also building a hotel in Cape Town, I believe?
Yeah, we're still building new supply. So we've got a hotel, 500-room hotel coming up in Cape Town. We've got new hotels in Joburg. Durban, we focused very specifically on renovations, completely redeveloping, for example, the Elangeni Maharani, changing its whole focus. The MEC spoke about resort developments. You know, this is a fascinating hotel list because it is 10 months of the year a business hotel, conferencing, very sort of corporate focused, and then for 2 months of the year it's an absolute beach leisure resort. It's full of holiday makers, and the entire nature of the hotel changes, and it's completely focused on the beach. So we've put a lot of effort into the whole beachfront of doing restaurants and pools and all that sort of thing, and that's worked very well for us.
Now, MEC, your department has developed a plan, the Tourism Master Plan for Developing the Economic Growth. Tell us more about it. What does this plan entail?
Well, I must say that the plan, although it was initiated by us in government of KwaZulu Natl, but it has now become a quality product of all of us in this province because industry had an opportunity to look at the plan, to critique the plan, to contribute. So it is now our plan as the KZN citizens. The plan, amongst other things, speaks about what are the game changers that KZN should focus on with regard to growing the tourism numbers up to 2030. In the plan, we identify, number one, the gaps that we have in some of our product offering. I raised the issue around your beach resorts. We are looking at things like that to say, let us actually focus in looking at what could actually sustain the growth numbers in the tourism industry in KZN. We also speak about transformation, that we do want to build an inclusive industry that tend to focus, bring into the mainstream those who are historically disadvantaged South Africans, and focus on township tourism, focus on rural tourism, and bring communities on board. In the plan, we're also focusing around the question of products such as your drunken spare cable car. Phindile spoke about that. Our focus is about growing tourism throughout the length and breadth of KZN. And projects such as the drunken spare cable car for us is quite crucial. We're focusing around the issues of Isandwana and what we could do around that. The big statue of King Shaka overlooking Utugela River around the ultimatum tree. Now, in other words, in the plan, we have taken ourselves and put ourselves in 2030, and we began to ask the very direct questions. What is it that we should do now that can catapult us to achieving the growth numbers we want to see by 2030? And as I said to you, I think we believe now very strongly that one of the things that tourism is, that despite the hard global economic conditions, tourism industry is very resilient. And therefore, an investment in the tourism industry in terms of infrastructure, in terms of supporting the tourism trade, I think it will be a worthwhile investment. So from the side of provincial government as well as the tourism industry as a whole, we are very clear that we now have a plan, and on the basis of this plan, we want to ensure that we sustain and grow this industry.
But have you set yourselves targets? Maybe to say by the year 2013 we want to have achieved a certain number.
We've got specific targets. For instance, we want to grow the tourism receipts. Last year alone, I think in 2009 we were sitting around about 22 billion. Okay. Last year in this industry, we actually generated more than 35 billion. And we therefore are clear that we want to actually achieve in excess of more than 110 billion by 2030. In other words, we actually want to grow this industry and what we generate out of the industry. In terms of employment, we took the total employment figure of 2.1 million, and then we actually said, what is KZN's share out of that? And clearly speaking, we then said, we want to actually move the numbers to even much more higher, and we're sitting at about 1.8 million. Of numbers that we want to grow by 2030. In other words, there are certain very definitive targets, and you can only achieve those targets of 2030 if you start now and saying what do we want to achieve between now and 2019. And clearly we can tell you now that the tourism in terms of employment creation here is employing in excess of more than 232,000 people in this province. And therefore, that tells you the importance of tourism in terms of contribution to the gross domestic product of the economy.
Now, Phindile, how has the tourism sector contributed towards job creations in the province?
Palesa, our work is to sell a promise. We sell the destination, but the actual delivery of that promise is the sector itself. And so the numbers that the MEC is citing are precisely the numbers that come from the sector, from trade.
So you're selling the product. It takes me back to the issue of township tourism. What are you doing to revive tourism within townships so that people are not only reliant on government providing them jobs?
We've got quite a number of exciting projects that we have in place in terms of not just township, but rural tourism as well. And one of which is going back to business tourism as an example. We have set targets where the businesses that we bring in as part of negotiations of contracts with event owners, because they are largely international event owners that bring obviously the numbers, and there's a whole value chain in terms of benefits that can be accrued by local businesses. So we're very clear about a target that has to go towards township businesses as well as rural tourism in terms of actual engaging with the various products. But of course, beyond giving direct business opportunities to these businesses, in terms of what we are doing as government to enhance the offering, we give advisory services, we give support in terms of ensuring that the business owners get to understand the tourism value chain, how to work it, and how to get into the mainstream. We're very committed to make sure that black business in particular, which is obviously what you'd find in township and rural tourism, black-owned businesses, they are not on the periphery of the industry. We did allude earlier, MEC alluded earlier to the fact that the transformation still remains an issue that we are tackling head-on. And we work, of course, there's more that can be done by trade in this regard in terms of big businesses assisting in this regard, but we've got wonderful examples of projects or programs that we work together, one of which is with Tsogo Sun, which is Adopt a Guest House program, where we pair big business with small business so that there's real training in terms of opportunities. So there's quite a number of exciting programs that we are implementing and others that are in the pipeline to grow.
Maybe I should just bring Marcel into the picture on that one. Tell us more about that project, Marcel.
Yeah, it started probably 10 years ago as a CSI initiative where we sort of helped guest houses that were predominantly black women owned, very sort of basic help. operating equipment and sort of basic business services and so on. But this thing's grown phenomenally. I think we have something like 132 guest houses in the program now, which is more than we've got hotels. And essentially what it does is it takes the concept of the B&B. Some are in townships, some are in residential, other residential areas, etc. And it just helps these people get exposure to a market. And it gives them the basic training of how to run a business, how do you get your books right, how do you manage your bank account properly, how do you lay up for breakfast, what does a proper layout look like. And the exposure that the guest houses get through the Tsogo Sun marketing program, I mean, they take off phenomenally well, and they just get supported along the way. And this thing has grown to, as I say, about 132 guest houses that are in it. And it's had, I mean, there was even accusations internally where people were saying, but you're creating our future competition. Because some of them get quite big. I mean, they start reaching like 40 rooms and so on, which are substantial businesses. And it's been a program that's worked really, really well. And I find the interesting thing for me on those is that they actually integrate into our system. When you have, whether it be business or leisure tourism, it's an add-on service. You can push customers across. People want to see these products.
So they are basically yielding the desired results.
It works beautifully, yeah.
There you have it. Let us just quickly take a commercial break. When we come back in a few minutes' time, we'll also be opening the floor for the questions that the honorary KwaZulu Natal people that are here, they have. You at home as well, remember that, participate by tweeting using hashtag TNA BizBrev.
For victory requires intense effort and teamwork. When you get to it, there is no turning back, because all eyes are on you. When it's action time, nothing should stand in your way. Sports Live tackles and analyzes all the sport action. This is the home of all your sport news, updates and more. Sports Live weekdays at 8:30 p.m.
SABC News. We report, contextualize and present news and current affairs honestly, fairly and fully. We consider it a duty to provide consistent, relevant, useful and top quality information and analysis. Our mission is to provide credible, accurate and interesting news programming, bringing news into everyone's homes in everyone's languages. Thank you, South Africa, for relying on SABC News for quality news output and for making us your #1 source of information. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Children's rights in health are a priority in the journey of good health.
All children should have access to adequate health care, not only curative but preventative as well.
How to identify ADHD on children.
ADHD is a childhood disorder which manifests with the symptoms of hyperactivity, impulsivity, and/or inattention.
Is breastfeeding still a vital nutrition to babies even today?
Breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life is absolutely crucial.
Catch Health Talk with Dr. Silo Mutawung every Saturday from 9 till 10 a.m.
News Today takes an in-depth look on news locally, continentally and globally. We bring the world to your home. We cover all economy news extensively to keep you informed. We are live to break news as and when they happen across the world. We analyze news using experts in all aspects. Make a date with News Today every Monday to Friday from 3 to 5:30 p.m.
Let us take this opportunity Welcome you back to our TNA Breakfast Show, broadcasting live from Durban in the KwaZulu Natl, whereby we're talking economic development of this province. You've earlier had our guests elaborating further on the plans that the province has in terms of making sure that, tourism plays a vital role in terms of the economic development. We are doing this under the focus that says developing growth through tourism despite the current global economic condition. We are going to go on the floor now. We're just going to take a few questions and then let our panel members to respond. But just before that, MEC, if I can just come back to you. Is your department under pressure now? I know that you've been, actually an amount of about 1 billion rand has been cut off your budget. And are you trying to, put up the puzzles that are missing?
Well, let me say that, as you are aware, that government is going through fiscal consolidation. We have not been spared as at here in KwaZulu Natal. In fact, we are taking the biggest cuts than any other department, which is going to be more than 403 million rands in the next current financial year. What that means is that, of course, we would have to be able to reprioritize and focus. And I think it is on that basis that we did say some time back that there are things that we have been doing as government, largely with regard to the issue of the business tourism with the attraction of conventions. We're still working on the issues of route development. But we would then say the things that government will prioritize will continue to do them. But there are things that we'll have to work with the industry and therefore be able to expect the industry to come to the party more than what happens in other cities, in other states, in other countries. Like, for instance, we need to be able to have a bidding fund so that we can continue to attract these events. At the moment, the people that pay for that is ourselves as government. And our discussion that we're having with the industry in KZN is for us to partner with regard to that even more. So I'm saying with the cuts, of course, there are going to be pressures on us. But I want to assure the people of KwaZulu Natal that we will still continue to be aggressive around the marketing of the province, around ensuring that the province, we focus on road development in particular. What we might cut, which clearly is an area of events, and therefore that is where we would want our partners in the tourism trade to also then come in.
So you are under pressure?
We are, of course.
Is it a positive one? I believe it's a positive one because you do have plans in place.
Absolutely. As I say, there is no panic button from where I'm seated. However, I think I must also become a pragmatist that accepts the fact of the matter that when we are cutting more than 400 million in a budget, and a huge amount of that would have gone to financing and funding of events, including, of course, sponsoring some of the events that have an impact on the tourism industry in this province, our ability to be able to do that is going to be much lesser going into the future than it has been in the past. And that's why I'm saying, let the industry then, together with us, sit down and look how we can be able to sustain that part of business growth.
There you have it, MEC of Economic Development here in the KwaZulu Natal, MEC Mike Mabuyakhulu, saying that there is pressure, but there are plans that have been put into in place just to ensure that not much is felt. Now we quickly take in questions on the floor. Let's go to table 1. Lwazi Nsele. He's the chairperson of Msunduzi, Peter Maritzburg Tourism. Now his question. Okay, there is Lwazi there. If you can just quickly take the microphone to him. But remember that at home, we said that hashtag TNA BizBrief. It's what you can use now. We'll be taking your comments and questions and convey them to our panelists. You can go on, Lwazi.
Angibingelele u-MEC ubaba uNdiyema nethimba lakhe. Ngicabanga ukuthi okokuqala mhlawumbe congratulate u-MEC for the formation of the KZN Business Association. I think that's what is very important, especially when we talk about transformation, especially of the township tourism and also in the rural areas. Because as black business, we are also wanting to benefit from the procurement platforms that are available in the department. And then secondly, I just want to go to the issue of transformation. I think this one is a very big issue with us, especially previously disadvantaged peoples. It's very important that the government come on board and the private sector. Mr. Tsogo Sun, CEO, we are looking at you to come and support the businesses that are there in the township. I've heard about your program, but we have never seen it where I come from, Pietermaritzburg. So I think that guest house program, we want to see it in the Midlands. Sengphetha is the fact that we also have product development. We have our products. We have Viduzi Susani, which is a great product which involves our 4x4s. We need the department to come and support us and the private sector as well, because our aim is to ensure that young black people, they do benefit from tourism.
Siyabonga Buti. Let's take one more question. Table number 8, Max from Max Lifestyle. There we go.
Lubengelela Minister Wamlapa. Firstly, we want to thank the opportunity they give us in the township, but we still have challenges when it comes to the busy time, the visibility of the police, the development of the infrastructure, and when it's busy time, we are lack of the police. When the tourists they come, they find the problem. There is not enough police to protect them. Once they have a problem, they won't come again because they will say, I was in the Max Lifestyle at the township, they hit my car or they stole my phone. If we can protect that, Minister and the Department of the Police, they can make sure that they protect this product that we already build it and make sure that people, when they go to the township, they are very safe, and to develop the place to look beautiful, like where you see when you go along the sea. The paving, the everything must be spot on to make the place user-friendly to everybody.
Now, I wanted to ask Buti before you go, have there been incidents of crime in the area? Why the concern on police visibility?
Yes, I've been trying to talk with police before, the visibility, because our problem, the police are not enough. So we have lots of visitors, like Maxi Lifestyle is bringing people all over, international and local. So our problem, people are getting hurt in the township, and then they complaining, they don't coming back again because they complaining, I've been there. It's not even in Max Lifestyle itself, along the road. So when things happen, the tourists will never come again. And they have this tendency to township is not safe. If we can try and concentrate to renovate that part.
Okay, we do have that. It's basically denting the image of their businesses. Let's start with you, MEC. The issue of transformation, as Ubutluaz was saying.
Well, let me say that we are dealing with a historical fact that we have taken on as a province and have actually taken the matter of transformation quite seriously. In our tourism master plan, the issue around how do you empower historically disadvantaged South Africans to ensure that tourism also is able to benefit them as well, is a matter that we have taken seriously. And the number of interventions that Phindile just mentioned, together with some of the interventions that members of the trade themselves are also participating in, clearly indicates how seriously we take this. However, we also want to take it even further. We have decided, for instance, with regard to tour operators, to say we would then, through Tourism KZN, be able to assist them to apply for the national incentives, to train. For people who have got B&Bs, we're saying we also would be assisting them with regard to their grading. So there are very clearly well-defined interventions that as government we are actually adopting so that we can ensure that our industry is inclusive. So when it's come to the issues, for instance, around how people benefit, we actually are now becoming even much more bolder in this initiative. Say, when we bring in big conferences, we also want to see, for instance, historical disadvantaged South Africans benefiting, whether you bring in the AIDS, World AIDS Conference is coming back to Durban in July of this year. One of the things we are clear now is to look at how to ensure that historical disadvantaged South Africans are able to have a share. So in other words, whilst we grow an industry for us all, at the same time we must also say there are people who do not have expertise in some areas. We have also established what is called Africa Potiko, where we say black business in the tourism industry must come together to share experiences so they can learn from one another. We take them to a number of international tourism trade shows so that they can actually get exposure, so can get business. So as a province, we really have a well-written script insofar as how do we go forward. But of course, it is not a walk in the park. There are a number of challenges. The second matter that I think I want to deal with is with regard to the question of what Max was saying. By the way, I think Max's lifestyle is one such very important product that we now have in Umlazi, which clearly indicates that our townships are able to attract tourism and tourists. Now, the issues he's raising are quite important. And I'm glad that these issues, some of them, the eThekwini municipality with regard to issues of infrastructure is exploring and looking at all of those things because they're in Umlazi. And the Deputy Mayor, her worship Deputy Mayor, Nomvuzo Shabalala, was amongst us this morning, is also taking notes on these matters. So we will be
or maybe
looking
we
those
should
issues.
perhaps give an opportunity to respond. She can respond better to it. But to
Yes.
continue, we'll just take the microphone to the Deputy Mayor. She's better off to respond to the issue of infrastructure. Yes, MEC?
The second matter around the police visibility, I think it's a matter that we would be looking at. We will be discussing with our members of business who are in the township. We want them to indicate to us the nature and the extent of some of the challenges. And definitely, I will have a discussion with my colleague, the MEC of Community Safety and Liaison, MEC T.W. Mchunu, as well as the Provincial Commissioner, because what we do not want to see in this province is an incident that would actually negatively affect and become a blemish spot in our tourism industry. Be it in the township, be it anywhere in the parts of KwaZulu Natl, we think we must give tourists that safety, that certainty in their mind that when they are in this province, they are safe. Indeed, up to so far, tourists are safe in our province.
Now, Marcel, that corporate social investment initiative you referred to earlier on Adopt a House, now is it only operative in Durban? Because
No, it's countrywide. But I just want to talk about this transformation issue a little bit. You know, it's an interesting issue for us because it's a project that takes a lot of our time and money and effort, and rightly so. But the way we kind of look at it, to ignoring even industry codes and all that, because reading those is a mind-blowing exercise on its own, to try and get to the way we look at this thing, we say there's three key areas that we have to focus on. One is the old traditional transformation of ownership. And we did that years ago. The gaming industry effectively did that because it came in as a new post-94 industry. It required black shareholding to get licenses, and those have proven very successful, and that money's been reinvested into a lot of tourism infrastructure. So, I mean, I think we're number 3 most empowered company on the JSE, and I think Sun International is number 6 or 7. So your 2 big gaming companies are within your top 10 on the JSE. But that's very traditional empowered ownership structures, etc., that come into it. Then we've got employment equity in the business, and that's focusing on skills in our own business, training black general managers, training senior executives, building up people in the business that can take over and run our operations. And we've been pretty successful in that, but there's a long way to go on that. But I'd say the business compared to 10 years ago is fundamentally different. The nature of our exco in terms of people of colour, in terms of women representation, etc., is just a phenomenally different business to what this was 10 years ago. And the last one, which is the one we're focusing on very heavily at the moment and is quite complicated, is this enterprise development area, which has come through in the codes more recently, but we've been doing it for a while. And the guest house program came into that initially as a CSI thing. Good old charity. You write the check, you help someone, you got you send off, spend a day, etc. But it's become far more than that. It's become this enterprise development, which is saying creating these businesses out there that are sustainable. It's not poverty alleviation. It's not going out to someone who's poor and saying, here's a meal. It is the classic teaching them how to fish. It's creating businesses, and that's spread quite far. So we don't actually call it Book a Guest House anymore. It's now our enterprise development program. It covers guest houses. It covers operators of cleaning services, suppliers to the business. We're pulling in areas like in the casinos. We've got a heck of a lot of retail space. So every time we have to replace a tenant, it's trying to create a new business that goes in there, whether it be a fast food outlet, a retail store for clothing, etc., that has a black business association with it. And this goes across the country. That the other area we're doing, we've got development funds, and we have to be careful we don't go into the world of financial services, etc., because there's all sorts of regulations around that. But it's basically funding businesses to get them going, because we can be far more lenient than a normal commercial bank is on making these enterprises work. But we don't want to go and fund a business to go and operate somewhere that we don't see. It's got to operate within our facilities, like in Suncoast or in Monte Casino, etc. So it is an area that gets a lot of focus. I think in some cases not an area that gets enough credit, but I don't think that'll ever happen.
But is it well communicated? I mean, the fact that
it is,
doesn't
and I think
know about it.
Look, and certainly the people involved with it and the beneficiaries understand it well. And it is an industry, particularly in hotels and gaming in South Africa, that I think is leagues ahead of other industries.
Okay, just hold it there. Let's go to the Deputy Mayor of eThekwini just to respond better on the issue of infrastructure.
Thank you very much. I think because I'm short, I just have to stand so that everyone can see me. On the issues, let me thank first MEC Mabuyakhulu for his wonderful work that he's doing with us in terms of making sure that promoting our province and also promoting our city. It has benefited our city a lot in terms of tourism. In terms of the township tourism that Max was reflecting to, as the city, we were the first city to set up community tourism organizations. And in all our townships, we have CTOs, as we call them. And as the city, we do fund them to make sure that at least in terms of their operations on a daily basis, they will be able to do their job to market the townships themselves. I think the matters of safety and security in the townships, it's not only on the issues related to our tourism industry, but there are platforms to discuss those matters if there are any issues. For example, the CTOs that have been established in each and every township, it is the job of the CTO to make sure that they deal with the matters that might be preventing the tourism industry to grow in a township. But in the area of Umlazi, the tourism has grown very well. As a result, Max has a number of competitors within the township, Yadini and all other stakeholders that are coming from Umlazi because of the growth of the township tourism. And apart from that, we have a number of programs that are happening in the township to show that the tourism is really growing in the township.
But I think
if there are any other challenges that they are faced with, we are here in the city. Our doors are open for us to deliberate on those matters and see how can we increase the issues of security in the township, and also the infrastructure that he has also alluded to. Mm-hmm. We have plans in terms of our infrastructure, the upgrade of infrastructure that we have in all our city, in all our corners of our city, and that I'm sure that if there are any issues that you would like to discuss with us, he will be able to come to us and discuss those matters, maybe not alone, with all the other CTOs that are there in the township, because we talk about the entire city.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Deputy Mayor. I am going to request our guests to be very brief when they respond to the questions, because we want to take as many questions as possible. I know the issue of economic development is of great importance, and people have questions and they need answers from those that are responsible. Let us quickly go on table number 9. Table number 9, Alan Twiddle. Let's hear your question. And table number 1 must just prepare themselves after this.
Good morning. Firstly, thank you to Minister Mike Mabuyakhulu for this platform, and morning to the rest of the panel. First of all, we are excited to hear about the cable car in the Drakensberg, and we would like to get an idea of timelines. Secondly, the question is, what is being done to ensure that the CTOs, the community tourism organizations, are being funded in order to carry out the important work that they are doing? Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Alan. Now, table number 1, Mlungisi. So you're the owner of Rural Places Businesses Pay Rates?
Oh, yes. Okay, my name is Mlungisi Nzuza, owner of Nongoma Inn and Mbazwana Inn. Mine is just an appeal. Firstly, let me greet Babundiema, the panel young. It's just an appeal to the government yethu about leveling the playing ground. We've got an issue, ikakhulukazi ngoba where we come from, the business is too seasonal. And only to find ukuthi Tina, where we are, from the rural places, the business is not as good as in big cities. And we are bound or we are forced to pay our rates out to municipality and Ngonyama Trust. And yet, as I said, business is too seasonal. And is there a way the government just to eat the burden as beginning now? More so because I know also Duana, some businesses are closing because they can't afford to pay our rates and our rates in Ngonyama at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Usis Phindile Makwakwa.
Maybe on the question of transformation of the industry, maybe just to add, to emphasize, the MEC did indicate in the Deputy Mayor the programs that are in place to really grow further township and rural tourism. Maybe just to unpack a bit more, the Afripotico brand, what it really is meant to do is to say, let's formalize the small businesses in how they market themselves. Because some of the areas where we found that the biggest challenge is that as government, we come in and we give a particular a level of assistance financially, which of course you would appreciate that given the magnitude of the size of the province, we cannot go to every little business, tourism business person and say, yay, startup funding. And so what we do, we give some level of support in terms of advisory services, in terms of helping them shape their businesses, but also some funding support in terms of access to market platforms, which obviously by the time we take a business internationally, they should be at a particular level of being able to sell their services. And so Afripotico is meant to be a platform where businesses come together and better market themselves. Because once we've played our part as government to attract tourists and to make sure the sustainability of the business continues, that is upon the business owner. And so we have to equip them to help them do exactly that. But at some point, as government, we call it an incubation program at Tourism KZN. We incubate them for 3 years, and we say after 3 years, go out into the market and ensure that you are sustained because we've played our part. And so, of course, there can be much more that's done with also business in that regard. So in terms of programs that are in place, certainly they're working very well. Around the issue of...
Just before you respond to that, the issue of community tourism organization and their funding, just hold the thought there. We are taking a commercial break and you'll be able to respond to it, and we'll also be taking more questions on the floor.
technology isn't all scary. There's also fun stuff like gaming.
Lots of women do play games, whether it's on their phones or their tablets.
Then there are Africans who are using new tools to make other people's lives much easier.
We typed the whole CV on a small, QWERTY Nokia phone.
For all these and other technology and social media news, join me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC News.
Ahika Mano produces abstract and symbolic works of art. He called his latest collection Vote with Ink, Not Blood.
Praying for peace, literally, in my own way.
The South African film titled Luister or Listen in Afrikaans tackles issues of race in the country.
I think that the end goal is the reformation of institutional culture, but how we get there is in fact through changing the language policy so that no student is forced to learn in Afrikaans.
It's fashion designers like Julia Mpoko who are starting to pay more attention to menswear and hope to make a mark in the fashion industry.
So regardless of whether you're African, European, there's certain styles that you like. So if an African man enjoys wearing simple, well-tailored pants, then yes, I guess.
Join Refulo Mulwa for that 1 hour weekly dose of arts and entertainment news every Friday at 9 p.m. on Trends.
The deepening hunger crisis in Malawi is threatening the survival of children.
And also it is the life-threatening part of malnutrition.
Malawi is facing its worst food crisis in 9 years.
Mugabe is the world's oldest sitting head of state, ahead of Queen Elizabeth of Britain.
The veteran leader seeks to temporarily forget his party's problems and instead focus on his legacy.
But he shows no sign of slowing down or stepping down from power after 36 years in office.
Get all the latest news from the SABC's online news services on our website. Breaking news and in-depth coverage of everything from business, sports to politics and lifestyle. Catch the top news clips and watch live streaming of major news events on the SABC News YouTube channel whenever. Stay connected on the SABC News Facebook page and have your say on news that matters to you. And for the latest headlines and live updates from our reporters, follow us on Twitter. SABC Digital News, anytime, anywhere.
Everyone who's watching show today here in the KwaZulu Natl, you must throw a little bit of Zulu here and there. You are in the KwaZulu Natl Province, so I've got to respect that. MEC, I've got to respect that, isn't it? Thank you very much indeed. Now, just before the break, Phindile, I wanted you to just touch a little. Please do not go into too much detail because there are thousands of questions waiting for you people to answer down there. The issue of this community tourism organization, how are they being funded?
The CTOs are funded by municipalities, and so any challenges with regards to their funding is an area that needs to be engaged more. The MEC heads up what we call a provincial tourism committee, PTC, which is a gathering of mayors from the various districts. And so it's an issue that it continues to drive. We are concerned about the level of support that tourism receives in some municipalities, but it's a matter that we continue engaging on, and certainly we'll do our best to keep pushing that issues of funding and proper capacitating of the CTOs are addressed. But it is a local government issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me just add very briefly that in the area of the CTOs, there is a provincial policy now that we have passed through the Provincial Tourism Committee. And for us, the CTOs are quite crucial because it is about local tourism and actual supporting the local tourism. And I must say that we will then conduct a review how many of the municipalities are supporting their CTOs, which ones are not, and where they are not, and interact with those municipalities, of course, in an intergovernmental process to request them to actually set aside resources in their budgets to support CTOs. On the first question around, which Alan raised, around timelines of the cable car, we are going to be having an investment conference in April, Alan, because we want to bring in, you would be interested, cable car manufacturers, operators, and a whole gamut of people. So we'll have an investment conference. And as we speak right now, we have appointed a developer that is actually now going ahead with the processes, reviewing all of the necessary approval that will be required. They will also have to appoint an EAP, which is someone who's going to be actually assisting us with the EIA processes. So the processes, all of them are afoot. Remember, the cable car is in a sensitive ecosystem in the Drakensberg, just outside of the World Heritage Site, but we'll treat it as if it is inside. And for that reason, we would like to ensure that in our processes, we are very prudent.
Well, let's take one more question from the floor. Table number 6, Tamishezi, from Uwundlu in Sotium.
Ngibingelele MEC. My question is the strategic perspective from the department as it relates to the ocean economy that include young people in the province. But also, MSc, if one is able to check whether would you support a BRICS Youth Summit on tourism, so that we begin to ensure that young people of our province are exposed to the international trade, which also will bring other young people from the BRICS countries in the province for business tourism, which will also assist the province in ensuring that we have more inflows of young people from other countries to integrate in business strategic development with the youth of KZN.
Thank you very much. Now on to table number 5, Paul Ngema.
Good morning, MEC Ndiema. We all know that the buzzword today is to grow rural or township economies. My question is a simple one. What plans do you have to stop the explosive situation that is taking place, especially where there are developments, be it Kwamasho or Mlazi, where perhaps if there are some disagreements about how various stakeholders should do business, then there are some work stoppages. And because we believe that as business people, we really need a strong leadership. People that, leadership that will be proactive before something serious happens. I don't know if they've got any plans afoot, to give the investors who come into the township, as well as our black brothers who have got really genuine concerns as people who grew up in the townships, who want to protect their interests as forums, as associations, because we are all suffering we are being haunted by the scars of the past. I thank you.
Thank you very much. MEC, very brief.
Well, thank you very much. Firstly, let me say that in the context of tourism, in looking at Operation Pakisa, as well as our own maritime strategy, one of the things we have looked at and say, being a coastal province, it is important that we should actually be promoting, for instance, your cruise and cruise liners and cruise ships that should be taking place in KwaZulu Natl. But we also want people to introduce, there is no boat between Durban and Richards Bay, as an example. No boat between Durban and Hibiscus Coast. Now, you want to begin to say, you could introduce some of these things, and we think there is space for our people to do that. All what we're asking for is innovation from people, so that we can see how then those ideas can be supported. In the era of the BRISC and the Youth Summit, well, I think I want to encourage a process where we are able to promote, particularly outbound, in India, for instance. For us, India is a crucial market. 8 million of Indian people are now actually tourists. In China, for example, They are actually heading towards 60 million people who are outbound out of the Chinese market. We want to have a bigger share out of that. So when we talk about route development, we are looking at entering into those markets and be able to grow more. Between India, South Africa, and Brazil, we have got already an agreement around the issue of tourism and how we can actually grow the tourism numbers out of those. So I'm saying if then we have a summit that begins to talk about the doables, not a summit where you sit down and use it as a think tank, a summit where you say there are concrete ideas of how we can tap into these markets and how we can get tourists out of those markets. I think we would be prepared to look at that, but I would want to see the case of what is being proposed. What Paul is saying is, with regard to what happens in the townships, let me talk about the issue of labor conflict and labor peace. In the 9-point plan that the President of the Republic has raised in the National Assembly, the issue of labor peace is quite crucial. And during this period as a province, we are clearly intervening in instances where there are difficulties. As I speak with you now, I'll be from here going to Mandeni because there's been these incidents of factories that have been banned and some disturbance. So we are directly actually on the go. So we will be going there to create peace. And we do so across the province. But we think there are leaders at local level. There are mayors, there are councillors, there are traditional leaders. We want that all of that reservoir of leadership, that all of us, we should be utilizing it to try and assist us in instances where there may be difficulties. But I would want to hear more from Brother Paul about the kind of the challenges so that we can directly intervene and see how we can assist them.
Okay, now on to table number 11. Tobeka Matumbata, she's the tourism manager at Msundisi Municipality. Please talk on the microphone. Thank you.
Molo MEC and your panel, Tobeka Mafumbata from Msundisi Municipality, tourism manager. I've got two questions for the panel. The first one, I would like to know what are the plans of the department in terms of assisting local municipalities in data collection, because I believe that it's one of the major issues, because we don't really know how many tourists are coming in our cities, what are they coming for, what are the challenges, what is it that will make it sustainable for them to keep coming in our places, because we don't really have accurate data that is there. Are there plans in place? And another thing is, I know that Durban is a gateway in KZN in terms of attracting tourists. But another thing that I would like to know is that the department, what are the plans of ensuring that you are spreading the growth and development of tourism in other areas of KZN as well? Like, for example, in Maritzburg, you've got great events that are taking place, such as the Comrades Marathon, the Duzi Canoe Marathon, which I don't think we are capitalizing enough on the tourists that are coming. Probably the municipalities are not capacitated enough. Is there a program in place by the department to ensure that we capitalize on such programs?
Thank you very much indeed, Tobeka. Let's start with you, Sis Phindile.
Maybe starting with the last question around geographic spread that I alluded to at the beginning of the interview. What we do as Tourism KZN is partner with the event owners to actually market the events. And so the numbers that grow year on year in terms of your comrades, your Duzis, and other events around the province, actually that growth is not just by coincidence. There is quite a lot of work that happens at a provincial level to drive greater attendance. What we are focusing on more is selling packages. So we've got a number of partners that we are in conversation with, one of which is SAA, where we're starting a program to say, let us around events put together packages that we sell to internationals and locals. And so we are able to track our numbers, because the game of tourism is such that because you do marketing, you cannot exactly say each tourist that comes in came in through this marketing platform or that marketing platform. But when you start packaging, you are able then to say, what we know for sure is that so many people flew in or drove in buying the packages. And so there's quite a lot of work that we're doing in that regard. Maybe just to throw in a little bit also that we ran a program with Tebe Tourism, which is again capturing the local market from a package point of view, to say buy your holiday now, pay it later. Again, going to that issue of affordability, to say, much as there's an economic crunch, people still need to travel, let us package and make tourism more accessible. And so in regards to actually packaging and making sure that events grow, we do that work quite a bit. In terms of data collection, we have a research unit at Tourism KZN, and so we collate data. How data is collected is national tourism, South African tourism drives the overall data collection, but then obviously in terms of movements within the province, we have the data. I think it's just an issue of speaking more in terms of maybe specifics. One area we are trying to work very hard on, and obviously working with organizations like FEDHASA, is some hotels are not necessarily willing to give you the exact numbers of tourist movements because they see it as competition that, obviously that information when it becomes public, there's competition issues, but it is something that we are working on as government.
Just hold it there, Phindi. Let us quickly take a commercial break. We'll be taking more questions when we come back and wrap up.
Trends follows fashion designers, cultural and lifestyle issues when and as they happen.
I'm always excited to see what the new fresh talent is bringing along. I'm always excited to see the direction that the designers are going in.
We celebrate the brilliant works of playwriter in Mpumalanga.
When everybody else talk about their own challenges, some talk about maybe the whaling that happens around Japan and other areas, I can be able to say, look, we have been confronted with the problem whereby our rhino population is going down.
We never miss previews of movies locally and abroad just to keep you informed.
So I'm a partner. Welcome to the big boys.
Join Refulo Mula for that 1 hour weekly dose of arts and entertainment news every Friday at 9 p.m. on Trends.
Our eyes are the window to the beautiful wonders of the world, but blindness enhances other senses. Technology has made living with blindness easy.
If you look on the side here, it's got like grooves in there. Yeah. So the first one after when it comes together will be 20 Rand, 50 Rand. And if I slide this in, I can see according to the grooves, it's now on 50 Rand.
To Steve Kekana, blindness was never a hindrance, but a blessing.
You got to know that you are the child of the universe, being blind, and you've got the right to be here.
Join your host, Dr. Sello Mutawun, every Saturday from 9 a.m.
Tonight in an SABC exclusive news expose, we show you how firearm proficiency certificates are fraudulently sold for a few thousand Rand.
What you did was illegal. Do you at least acknowledge that? What you did is illegal.
I say it could be probably illegal.
Nigeria is Africa's second largest tomato producer.
The chief executive of Enrisco says he started the company with a capital of $75 million.
The problem now is that the market has been created in China.
He says that doing business in the country is becoming more difficult every day.
Let us welcome you once more, and this is the very last session or the last segment of the show. We are still live in Durban, in the KwaZulu Natl Province, whereby we're talking economic development, looking at the initiatives and the plans that the Economic Development Department has in terms of reviving the economy of this province. Remember that KwaZulu Natl Province, it's the second contributing province to the country's economy of South Africa. So let us just take the last set of questions from the audience here on the floor. Table number 1, Naresh from Dundee Tourism.
The Honorable MEC, Mr. Mike Mabuyakhulu,
And sir, I must say, you're living up to your surname, which means let's grow big.
That's a good one.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, viewers, good morning. Firstly, I would like to take this opportunity to commend you and your department on taking tourism within the province to new heights. My name is Naresh Gopi, and I'm the chairperson of Dundee Tourism, which forms part of the Mzanyati district. We surely wouldn't be hosting Dundee July if it was not for your office. Thank you. My question or my concerns, tourists travel along recognized tourism routes. Why does the province authority no longer promote tourism routes but only district municipalities? What has happened to the KZN marketing of bush, berg, beaches, battlefields? Wonderfully catchy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much indeed, Naresh. Now on to table number 3, Nomusa from Hibiscus Coast Municipality. Table number 3.
Thank you very much. Greetings to our MECs and the House at large. Mine is our president has visited Nigeria, and he is the first one to do that after the inauguration. And Phindile talked about us working together with the African countries so that our economy will be boosted, since they have got different skills, which we usually see. And I want to say, as Hibiscus Coast, we really want to see Phindile Ngelin coming to our area, because there are a lot of ideas which we have, but we meet like this and go home and do this and that. Not only that Phindile Ngeziktin, but we need Yena Ezektina so that we do our what we want to do. But I'm happy that MEC Mabuyakhulu has really helped us in advertising our coast. And I want to say thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much indeed, Ma'am Nomsa. I think I can fit in one last question. Table number 5, Enzo.
Good morning to you all. Greetings to our MEC and panel. My name is Enzo Nchangase. I'm from Sobantu, Sakubuntu Youth Organization. My question is to our MECs. I was impressed with the growth and development of our economy, especially with regards to our train. But my question is, when can we expect the train ride from Pietermaritzburg to Durban for our students, for our local tourism, and just accessibility to Durban? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Enzo. Final words from the member of our panel. You respond and then you give final words. We left us just a few minutes to wrap up the show.
Well, thank you very much. Naresh, let me start with yourself. The province, as you say, why the province is no longer promoting tourism routes, but district. What we have done, we have actually, through the PTC, agreed with the district that we would be promoting your own routes within the district and also throughout the province, but we would then be focusing in promoting KZN nationally and internationally. And that would actually become the way in which we focus. But it does not mean that, therefore, we're leaving everything, so we'll still be supporting you with regard to the issue of the marketing. That is why in Indaba and other trade shows that takes place here, we want to see district coming so that they can also be able to have a platform to promote themselves and their routes. With regard to the issue raised by Enzo around the train, my take is simply that you would know that we have been discussing, for instance, the issue of the train between Durban and Pietermaritzburg. And our own understanding is that there are technical issues that are now outstanding, which people in press are still dealing with those issues, which are technical. When will those be resolved? Because they have to do with the rail and the platform. We'll leave those there. Let me then end by saying, I think for us in KwaZulu Natal, when it's come to tourism, I want to say that I think we're on the cusp of one of the great years. We should be able to experience a great season, but I think that season is going to come about us working very hard. None amongst us must sit on our laurels and hope that things will happen. And we're going to have to be very aggressive in certain areas. Aggressive in route development, aggressive in marketing, aggressive in positioning what we actually offer as a province in the domestic market. And we're going to be seeing us going to other provinces because we think we should be growing a bigger share of the domestic market. And KZN is going to be able to take its rightful equitable share in the tourism market.
So you can guarantee the country out there and the KwaZulu Natal people that there is light at the end of the tunnel in terms of economic development of the province.
Despite these difficult times, I must say that we really believe that our tourism would actually hold up for the other sectors of the economies that may not perform as well as within tourism would.
There you have it, Sis Phindi. You can respond to the question of Mayor Nomusa and, wrap up.
Okay, just to respond to Mayor Mqwebu's question, certainly, working closer together, we actually, through the South Coast Tourism Body, work very closely with Justin, the CEO, and his team. Our team was just there this past weekend, and so we have concrete programs we do together. Perhaps maybe at PTC, we just need to make sure that on a quarterly basis, we give you exactly the work that's done in terms of the various districts, but we certainly work very closely together and we'll continue to do so. And really in summing up, I think MSC has put it perfectly. Mine is to say, as much as there's been a cut to our mother department, we have an 8 million rand cut, but that hasn't made us feel that it's the end of the road. It means that we make work smarter, and so collaboration. We're very clear that we cannot do this alone, that we need trade on our side, that we need the various other partners. I must just say that KZN is one of the best examples in terms of how we collaborate as various government bodies and institutions and the 3 tiers of government in terms of collaboration with local and national. We referred to the airlines that are now flying directly into King Shaka Airport. That is the work of a number of organizations. They've come together to say, we'll put KZN on the map. We will make sure that there's direct arrivals into KZN. And so those collaborations continue to work very well for us and we'll focus more on them.
Well, thank you very much. Your final words, Marcel?
So Tsogo Sun has invested in the last 5 years about 3 billion rand into KZN, and we've got about 4 billion to go. It's, if nothing else, my head's on the block for that type of investment spend, but it's a risk we're happy to take because it is a province that has a very strong economy. It has a very strong tourism and entertainment market, and I think it's going to go from strength to strength regardless of what the short-term fluctuations are. And the MEC and I might disagree on occasional policies that come out, etc., but that's government and business. In the end, it's a province we can work with. And so we're very happy to have a substantial part of our business in KZN, and I think it's going to do very well.
Well, thank you very much. There you have it. Unfortunately, in my language, in Sotho, it's just not enough, or it's just never enough to cover all the issues. But I do know that, you do know the plans that the KwaZulu Natal has in terms of developing its economy. That's basically all we had for you today. Let's take this opportunity to thank the members of our panel, MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, MEC Mike Mabuyakhulu. Siyabonga baba. The COO of Tourism in the province, Phindile Makwakwa, thank you very much for your time as well.
Thank you.
And lastly, CEO of Tsogo Sun, Marcel van Aulcock, thank you very much. And most importantly, thank you very much to all of you who have taken their time out, to come and participate in the show. And thank you very much to our viewers at home. That's all we had for you from KwaZulu Natal live here in Durban. Siyabonga. Leon, it's back to you in Johannesburg.
Thanks very much, Palesa. Thanks so much to the guests as well that joined there, focusing in on the KwaZulu Natal Province. And great. I hope you enjoyed that conversation here on the program. Let's just take a look at some of the issues that have been happening around us while the breakfast was on, or the briefing was on. Here's one saying, Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan says the review by ratings agency Moody's comes about because of serious questions they have about the South African economy. That's the response. So the Finance Minister has responded to news that Moody's is now placing South Africa on a watch to downgrade the country's economy. Moody's has placed South Africa rating of negative on review for a downgrade just hours before Gordhan lands in the United States on a second leg of his investor roadshow. Godan goes on to elaborate. He says, the review means that Moody's currently has 2 notches above junk grade. Secondly, they informed us on Friday and informed us on Monday in London that they have questions which need to be clarified, which will determine when they come to South Africa later in March, whether they leave us where we are or whether they downgrade us. So that is the response. Those are the facts with regard to the downgrading. And I've seen a lot of people saying, just let them downgrade us, forget about it, we don't need them. You know, the reality is if you get downgraded as an economy, to get out of junk status is very, very difficult. People don't want to invest in your country, the economy goes down even more, and the currency takes a hammering. So we don't want junk status, we certainly don't, and we don't deserve it. We really, really don't, with the hard work that we must put in to try and avoid it. So that's the latest on the Moody's issue. A big story, no doubt, that'll continue to develop through the day and while the Finance Minister does his roadshow out there in the USA. All right, it's time for us to say goodbye now. Thank you so very, very much for watching.